Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our session, LinkedIn Live session. We've had some technical difficulties this afternoon, so you will now be hearing this on a recording, I hope. So there won't be any live question and answers, but I do have Laura here that will help go through that. So I am John Barnacle-Bowd, and I'm responsible for Group Environment, Health and Safety RS Group, and I'm based in the UK. And today we're going to talk specifically about recruitment and the health and safety industry. I have with me Laura Aucott. Laura, if you want to introduce yourself, please.
Yeah, lovely. Hello, thanks for having me, John. Really nice to be here chatting. Not so live, but so my name's Laura Aucott. I am an associate director for HSE recruitment. So hopefully you know who we are and what we do. We're obviously health and safety recruiters. I've been doing this for 14 years now, so quite a while. This is my, hopefully, specialist subject, and I'll be able to give you some good insights today. Fingers crossed.
Wonderful. And there will be a test at the end.
Oh, right, okay, yeah, I'll prepare.
This is obviously part of our health and safety group that we've established, the Health and Safety Professionals in UK and Ireland. I think you have to be a member of the group to join the call, but if you're not a member of the group, please go out there and try and join that group today if you can. We do have a number of questions, format questions that I will be asking Laura. And if it was a real live session, you could answer questions in the live chat. So first of all, first question. Skill shortages are a huge issue facing the health and safety industry.
Yeah. How
can the industry and employers tackle this problem?
Yeah, and it's a great question, and it's so true. I'm sure you've seen this, John. There is a bigger and bigger skills gap every year. You know, it's been a problem for a couple of years, but it's kind of exacerbated since kind of COVID. For a number of reasons. You know, health and safety has always been one of those industries where people tend to fall into it as a second career, right? You know, so some they usually have done something else first, and then they become a health and safety professional, which means they are further along in their career, they are older, and that combined with COVID, a load of people retired during the COVID period. They retired earlier, so that's kind of prompted a big age gap there, which has exacerbated the skills gap. You know, so it's quite a big problem at the moment. There's a couple of different ways around it, but the main thing is being open-minded, I think. And I don't know how you feel about this as someone who obviously recruits for people within your team, but we definitely are finding that clients are having to just think outside the box a little bit more about the type of people that they bring in. You know, it's not as easy as back in the day when you could be really prescriptive and you could say, right, they must have 5 years experience in this particular industry, they must have this level qualification. You know, that's a lot tougher nowadays. I think, are you finding the same, John?
Yeah, I am. We're recruiting for a role at the moment, and it's I'll ask a question about that specifically later. but it's for an entry level EHS advisor. So the skills we're looking for is someone with some basic health and safety knowledge, but with a willingness to grow and learn. And see where they go. But we've had a lot of applicants that have come in and they've said, oh, I don't have any health and safety experience. Yeah. What can I do? And whether they are coming in to think, I really want a career in health and safety, or whether they're thinking, well, you know, health and safety sounds like an easy option, shall we go for that? And it depends what they're really looking for. When I was at school, there was no career advisor that says you're going to be a health and safety manager. Yeah. That didn't exist. It was a policeman, a fireman, or join the army or something like that. But I think it's how we make this industry our own.
Yes. Yeah,
and absolutely. You know, there's loads of professionals out there, but it depends where you are on your career path and how you jump on at the very start. I think that's probably the key factors.
Yeah, definitely. And you're definitely doing the right thing there. You know, you're being flexible for an entry-level position, saying, okay, well, look, let's be a bit more open-minded what we look for, and that's how we close this skills gap. You know, we've got to bring new people in. We've got to think about things differently. We can't be prescriptive and say, well, you must have 5 years experience for an entry-level role, because it just doesn't work that way anymore. And then the other thing as well is, the salaries have kind of gone mad at the junior end of the market. They've really, really risen. So we do really regular remuneration reports, and we found it was like a 9% increase last year. It was like a 12% increase the year before that. They've been going up like crazy for entry-level roles. So for people like us that have been around for a little bit longer, hopefully that's not too offensive. We've been doing health and safety for a while. Those salaries for entry-level people, I think, can seem a bit high for people without experience, but that's where the market is at the moment. We kind of have to accept that to tempt people in to health and safety, we've got to accept that they get paid more than we would have when we started out, and they're probably not going to have the same level of experience. They are going to have come into it from a different route. A lot of our clients are finding that the more open they are on industry background and stuff as well, that's really, really helping them. So again, saying, okay, well, I'm in logistics, so I can only look at someone who's got logistics or distribution. That's really, really narrowing your pool of people. Whereas if you say, okay, well, look, if they're good safety professional and they've got good technical knowledge and they fit culturally, well, we can train them on what a logistics site, site is like.
I'm very positive about that point.
Yeah.
When you look at job descriptions for safety professionals and they say must have relevant industry experience. If you think in oil and gas, I get that completely, because it is very high risk. But if you think warehouse experience or transportation experience, there are specific skill sets, but a good safety practitioner should be able to learn that and fit in.
Exactly. Yeah.
When you're thinking about, NIBOSH and other course providers, they don't do a module on transportation. They don't do a module on warehousing, do they? It's a general course. And you learn those skills as you grow, I think. So that's where we need to be a bit more open-minded.
Yeah, definitely. So like I said, there's quite a few different ways around that skills gap, the age gap, But for me, it all comes down to that flexibility. Let's be open about it. Let's look at people from different industries. Let's look at people who maybe don't have as much experience. Let's just consider different options. We always say culture fit is the most important thing, right? Because you can train everything else. And that's why people work with us in terms of recruitment, because if you just want to get a technical match, that's pretty easy. Let's just go out and just find someone with an EBOS certificate. But culture fit is hard. Yeah. Making sure that someone fits with your team and does things the way that you guys do and has the same vision and values, that's way, way more difficult. So I think if you focus on that as the key thing, let's find someone who matches the company values. Let's find someone who thinks the way that we think. And everything else can be taught. That's going to really, really help kind of close that skills gap. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. Yeah. Fine. Yeah. And it's really pertinent to me at the moment, so that's really good.
Good. Yeah.
So we will. I've thought of another question at the end as well. So without anybody joining us, I can keep asking other questions. So recruitment can address some of these challenges, but employee retention is also vital. Mm-hmm. What can companies implement to make employees feel valued, or what are employees looking for in the workplace?
Yeah.
And what trends are we seeing with regard to
that? Such a good question, and particularly because we just touched on the fact that the salaries have increased a lot, and it's hard for people to be competitive from a salary perspective. It's quite hard to say, okay, well, I need someone who's already doing this role for another company. And I need to tempt them over, but I don't have an extra 5-10 grand to tempt them away. And this is where this stuff comes in. This is the extra bit that you can use to be really, really attractive and to be competitive in the market, and to make sure that when you hire someone, they stay. Because like you said, retention is a real problem. You don't want to spend all that time training them up and getting them fit for the role, and then 12 months later they move on. So it's something that we looked at again in kind of the remuneration reports we did recently, and flexibility is still coming up as number one thing. And that's interesting because in health and safety, not all sectors can offer you home working and that sort of flexibility, right? Construction, you kind of need to be on site. Manufacturing, you need to be on site. Warehousing, you need to be on site. But there are other ways around that kind of flexibility thing. And that's it just always, every time we do these surveys, it comes in as the number one thing that people want. They want to be treated like adults and allowed some flexibility and some decision over how they do things, the hours and that sort of thing. So, for example, if you're a company where someone needs to be on site, we can't offer them home working. You can offer flexibility in terms of, okay, well, can we think about the hours slightly differently? Like, can we allow someone to drop their kid off in the morning and then start slightly later? Or even that level of flexibility is competitive, and that really, really helps. And I think, again, COVID just fully changed the way changed the way that things happen in the workplace, right? So after that, people got used to working from home, they got used to that flexibility, and they're not willing to give that up. So anything you can offer them with that work-life balance, that is still number one. That is the best way to get someone to come and work for you and to stay working for you. They feel valued, they feel that you're treating them like an adult. The other stuff that always comes in really, really high on those surveys is around the mental health and the employee assistance stuff. I think people now in the marketplace, they want to know that you do care about them as a person, that you're not just seeing them as a commodity within the team. So things like offering employee assistance programs with counselling and stuff like that, that's really, really popular. Anything where mental health is the priority. So one that we saw come up on the most recent remuneration report, which I thought was interesting, was around duvet days. So I think this is being driven by the younger generation. This is a real generational thing here, where they want to have the ability to call up and say, do you know what? I can't today. I'm not in that mental space. Can I work from home, or can I have the day off? And that's not the old school way of doing it, right? Maybe, I don't know if that's the same for you guys, but I know here it was, you have to ask for a day off a week in advance, and it's got to be signed off by the boss, and there was no way you had these sort of duvet days, and that's a real push we're seeing come through. And again, the sort of companies that offer this level of flexibility, this is who gets to keep the staff, because people are happy. They know, again, they're being treated like adults, they're being treated like genuinely part of the family, like they can make their own decisions. And then that makes them not want to leave. We did a big piece on culture here again after COVID, and we completely changed the way that we did things, and we created this culture of, we call it freedom and responsibility, and that's what this boils down to, is that you are a grown-up. We hired you because you are good at your job and you know what you're doing, so we're going to leave you alone and let you figure out how to do it. And if you tell me that that means, you need to work from 10 till 6 one day, or if that means that today the mental health is not there and you can't do it, that's fine. We're going to trust you with that. And we found that has had a huge impact on our staff retention. Massive.
I'm a massive advocate of, if I employ a manager to manage and to be a manager, then he should have that skill set to do that and be able to deliver still the results that I would expect, whether he's at home, at his mother's, at his father's, at Costa or somewhere else, but he still needs to be delivering. I think some of the bits that came in there about COVID specifically, I think we all learned lots of lessons before COVID or during COVID, and it was seen as impossible for people to work from home before COVID, but everybody managed it. It took a bit of getting used to, but I think everybody got there in the end. And there's some people that started to appreciate, actually after COVID, it's nice to actually go back into work. And they were back into work 5 days a week, but then it sort of ebbed back a bit, and they're going like 4 days and 3 days. And we know it's hard as a profession, because our customers are on job sites, they're in warehouses, they're out on the road, they're doing their jobs, and we have to be present to show that we can review the risks and so on. But there's also a degree that if you plan your diary well, maybe you can get a day at home doing your admin, doing whatever you need to do. But I think organisations need to be open to that. And RS, we're very open to that. We have flexible working, and we also have the flexible hours as well, where people can work earlier, work later, with agreement with their managers, obviously. But I think it's not just a job now.
Exactly.
The work, the employer has to offer more. It's not just the salary that we want. It's the other benefits as well. Mental health support, EAPs, work-life balance. What else are you going to offer me that is away from the norm, that maybe the company next door they can give me the same salary, but they haven't got all these nice bits as well.
Exactly, yeah. It makes such a big difference. And like we said, you're hiring someone because they're good at the job and you trust them. And so we should trust them. Let's actually trust them and let them do it the way that they want to do it. And that was kind of the attitude we took after COVID, is that if we didn't trust you, if you were someone that we thought, okay, well, actually, I'm not sure if you can work from home, or then you probably shouldn't be working for us. We should have people working for us that we trust and know are doing things in the best interest of them and the company. Yeah. And this really, to me, ties into that skills gap, age gap thing again as well, because there is a generational thing here. That the newer generations coming through just have completely different expectations of what work looks like and what work should provide for them. And yeah, if you're talking retention with the new generations coming through, if you don't give them that flexibility, they are not sticking around. No way.
Good. Okay, thank you very much. Question 3. Now, Laura, you're very active on LinkedIn. I think a lot of people on this group that are listening probably know that. If you don't, look at Laura's profile. Loads of stuff going on there. But LinkedIn is seen as one of the best social media platforms for job hunting as such. What tips do you have for job candidates and also recruiting employers on the most effective way to use LinkedIn for careers?
Cool. How much time have you got? This is my favourite subject. So you're absolutely right. LinkedIn is really, really good for careers, and people don't often believe this. They think it's just another social networking site, or it's for people to kind of brag about their achievements, but it genuinely is the best way to hire people and to find new roles, 100%. So I think people just don't understand the way that LinkedIn works and how employers use it to find people, and that's maybe where the misunderstanding comes in. But basically, everything, for example, that we do in recruitment is, I would say, 90% through LinkedIn. That's the majority of where we hire people from, and that's because it's the new way of doing a headhunt. The old school headhunt where you'd phone up and you'd try and find out where the person works, you'd try and speak to them at work. We can do all of that through LinkedIn now. So it is where the majority of headhunters, recruiters, that's where they're going to find you. But internal people as well, HR teams, talent acquisition teams within companies, that's where they find people. They do still put job adverts out, but a lot of the time we're looking for something specialist, and the chances of it applying is slim to none. We've got to go out and find it. So LinkedIn is a really, really great tool for that, but only if you're using it right. So if you've just got a LinkedIn profile and it just sits there and it tells me that you're a safety advisor at such and such company and that's it, it's not doing you any favours. It's not really going to get you noticed. So without giving away all of the the tools to trade, LinkedIn basically, it has this thing where it looks for optimised profiles. So someone that has got their profile filled in the way they want it to and is interacting with it the way that they want it to, they will push that person's profile out far and wide. So, for example, if I search for a safety advisor with logistics experience on LinkedIn, the people that will go to the top of that list are people whose profiles are optimised. Okay. So what that means is, you filled in all the sections, which you'd be surprised how many people have huge gaps all over their LinkedIn profile, but have filled them in a way that is attractive to people that are looking. So what I mean by that is, for example, you've got a tagline right on your LinkedIn. So you've got your nice smiley picture, and then underneath is the line, and most people just put their job title, so safety advisor at such and such. That's not really optimising it, that's not using it to the best of its advantage, because let's be honest, a lot of safety roles, they look the same on paper, right? If you get a job description or you get a CV, they all are really very similar in the day-to-day. So we're looking for more than that. We want to know, what is it that you do? You're not just a safety advisor. What do you actually do? So that tagline should be that. It should be absolutely selling what you do. And whether that's, safety advisor passionate about audits, or safety advisor with a specialism in implementing systems, or, there's just something there that is a little bit more than I'm just a safety advisor in XYZ industry. That's absolutely the first thing that will help you get noticed. Because again, if you think a headhunter or an internal HR person is looking for someone and they've got a list of 100 safety advisor, and then all of a sudden yours says passionate about implementing safety systems, and they want something with safety systems, that you're the first person they're going to reach out to. So definitely making sure that that sort of information is really, really at the front and centre of the profile.
Do they have to do anything on their profile if they're actively looking for a job? Do they have to actually need to click any boxes to make them more visible?
Yes, technically. So there is a section on your LinkedIn profile that you can tick that says open to opportunities. Now, if you don't tick it, doesn't mean you won't get approached, because people will still speak to you anyway. But again, you're probably just not going to be the first person they approach. So again, headhunters, when we're searching, we will look for a safety advisor in a certain area with certain experience, and we will first look at who's already said they're looking for a new job. So definitely, if you're looking, tell us that you're looking. People get a bit nervous about it because they think that people within their organisation are going to be able to see that. LinkedIn does try to ensure that people within your organisation do not see that you're open to opportunities. I cannot guarantee it 100%,
No, of course not.
but they do say that this is their commitment, is that it will only show that you're open up to opportunities for people who do not work for your company. So you shouldn't worry about it too much. And to be honest, I don't think it's a bad thing anyway if you're open to opportunities and your boss sees it. It doesn't mean you're actually looking or actually interviewing. It just means, well, look, if I'm earning 50 grand a year and someone wants to call me and pay me £200,000 a year, then I'll have that conversation. Why would I not? So yeah, absolutely make sure you turn that on. And then your profile itself needs to be filled out. So again, this is just more than saying, I am a safety advisor at this company and I do safe systems of work, I do risk assessment. But you've got to give us who you are as a person, because like we said, culture is the big thing, right? That's what we need to get right. So I'm looking for who you are as a person on that profile. I'm looking for something more than what I could read on your CV. So that's the final bit where people really fall down, is they may have filled it all in and they may have sold themselves kind of on the profile, but then they don't do anything with that profile. So they're not engaging, they're not interacting, they're not commenting on things. The way LinkedIn works, it's a social network, so it's built on you engaging with people, right? That's literally the whole point of it. And that's what most people are looking for. Again, if we're looking to hire someone, I want to see that they're engaged, and I want to see what they're talking about and what they're passionate about in regards to work, because it fills that culture piece out again for me more. So if you are on LinkedIn and you've got a filled in profile, we encourage you to go and find people that you're interested in, that you can connect with and you can follow. So whether that's other safety people in your industry, whether that's more senior people, just go and find the people that interest you and that are sharing the information that interests you. And then engage with it. And by engage, I don't mean just like it. You've got to go and start a conversation with these people. And whether that's commenting and saying, this was a really interesting article, thanks for sharing, these are my thoughts on it. Whether it's, I didn't quite agree with that, because that's okay. You
have opinions. Yeah, everyone's got opinions.
That's no problem. But it's just that engagement piece again. And again, LinkedIn will prioritize people who are doing this sort of stuff. People that have got a filled in profile that are engaging with other people will go straight to the top of the search, so that you're going to get seen by headhunters and things all the time. So yeah, it's just about doing more than just having it sitting there. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah. You mentioned CV.
Yeah.
So should the LinkedIn profile match the CV?
Interesting.
Or are they two separate documents?
Can I say a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B? So, Look, yeah, they should mirror each other, because it's a huge red flag if your CV and your LinkedIn are like two different people. Yeah. So they need to mirror each other. So, yeah, in terms of the employment history, they should be similar. But to me, yeah, your LinkedIn profile is more for selling yourself. Okay. Don't get me wrong, when you send your CV for a role, I want you to sell yourself on there. But most people, whether they're, like I said, whether they're internal, HR, TA, headhunters, whatever they are, if they get your CV for a role, they think, oh, that person looks quite good. 9 times out of 10, the first thing they're going to do is go and look at your LinkedIn profile to flesh it out.
And it should be the same. Yeah.
So it should be the same, but it should be more of the same. So if you think of your CV as like, do you know the elevator pitch? Have you come across that before? Yeah. So an elevator pitch, you've got 30 seconds to sell yourself. Yeah. That's basically your CV, because the honest truth is when you apply for something and your CV goes in front of a decision maker, they've probably got about 30 seconds to look at it. So that's the thing to catch them. But then the LinkedIn is, okay, you've caught them and now they're sitting down and having a coffee with you. What do you want to tell them? It's fleshing the picture out. So the CV is saying, okay, yeah, everything that you've said on your job specification, I've got that. But then your LinkedIn is, look how great I am at that. Here's all the extra stuff I do. Here's how passionate I am. Here's how engaged I am. And that's the bit that kind of really, really sells you.
Wouldn't it be good if LinkedIn, you could create a summary CV from your job profile rather than writing it out once?
Yeah, so you can.
Can you? Oh, okay.
You can, yeah. Nobody knows this. Nobody knows this, but yeah, you absolutely can. So basically, if I go on someone's profile and they haven't sent me their CV or I haven't engaged with them, I can pull a CV from there and it will pull the information from your LinkedIn. Now, obviously, it's not going to show me all the engagement that you've done with other people, but it's going to give me all the content off your LinkedIn. So it's another reason to make sure that it's tipped up, because if I see your profile and I think, oh, that's great, and I chat to you and I really, really like you, and I say, oh, do you mind if I chat to my client about you, I can just pull that information straight off and give it to that client straight away. So yeah, you just got to make sure it's really, really selling you at all times, basically.
Top tips, and that's what we're here for. So yeah, there you go. I've learned something.
And there's so many more of those as well. But like I said, we could talk about this for days. There's loads and loads of different things. But just having your profile optimized in that way is already going to make you stand out, 9 times out of 10. Yeah. Okay.
Good. Thank you very much. And we must be live because we're starting to have a couple of questions coming through. So people have joined us. So thank you very much for joining us. Next question is diversity.
Yeah.
Is obviously a moral good for employers and from a business perspective, obviously. Mm-hmm. More diverse recruitment strategies could help the industry address skill shortages, as we spoke about at the beginning. What strategies should companies use to ensure that their recruitment process is diverse? Yeah,
great question. Love this question. Diversity is one of my favourite subjects. It's something that's very, very dear to my heart, and it's very, very embedded at pretty much everything we do here. So I'm really glad you asked about the strategies around hiring, because I think this is where people fall down a little bit. We have lots of clients that will say, I really want to hire diversely. We don't discriminate, we'll take whoever, but they don't do anything about the hiring strategies, so it's not helping you. Someone described it to me once a few years ago as, if you, for example, are always advertising in The Guardian, you will always get the same sort of person apply for that role. So you can say that you want diversity all that you want, but certain people are never even hearing about the job in the first place. So for me, that is the number one objective. If you are looking to hire diversity, you've got to think about where those adverts are and how you're attracting those people. So there are a couple of different language things that you can look at. So there's a couple of different programs. I'd advise you to have a look on Google, but where it will tell you about gender diversity in language. So traditionally, a lot of job adverts that you put out there will be quite male in their language, and we don't realise it, and it can be off-putting. And so that's already a gender barrier where women will look at that and think, that doesn't resonate with me. That doesn't feel like who I am, and they won't even apply to it in the start. So definitely look at kind of the language of stuff you're using. Like I said, look about where you're posting those job adverts and try and think outside the box a little bit. So if you are always, putting it just on LinkedIn, have you looked at different job boards you can use that maybe appeal to different diverse natures? That's a really, really important one. And then the big thing then is you get the diverse people applying, which is great. But there is still so much unconscious bias in the recruitment process, right? And well, actually, in some places, there's a lot of conscious bias still in the recruitment process, which is not ideal. But this is something that we can't really help, the unconscious bias piece. So there's loads of ways around that as well. Some of the stuff that we recommend is you can do blind applications.
Yeah.
So blind applications means that you are taking the names off the CVs entirely. I don't think that sometimes goes far enough, because if someone sends a CV through, yes, there's no name on there, so you can't tell, the ethnicity or the gender or anything like that. But the way someone's CV is written, or where they were educated, or things like that, there can still be clues in there that tell you who that person is. So you can do blind CVs, but the thing that I would suggest is that you take CVs out of the equation entirely, if you can, and just go back to competencies. Because competencies are what are important, right? That's what you're looking for, is somebody competent to do the job. Have they done this before, and can they do it here? So you can put an application out there and say, don't send us your CV. Instead, can you answer these questions for me? Can you tell me about a time where you've done X, Y, and Z? Can you tell me about a time where there were leadership challenges, and how did you deal with that? All of that sort of stuff. And that way there's no signals, there's nothing in the CV that says this is who this person is. You're just looking at, okay, do I like their approach? Do I like what they've done? So that's an interesting way. Conversely, you can go completely the other way with it, right? And this is something that we sometimes recommend on headhunts, is you can do video applications. Now, people think that this actually would be more difficult because you can see the person. So you know who they are, you know what gender they are, you know what ethnicity they are. But what we can do with video applications is we can track the decision maker's engagement with them. So if, for example, I'm recruiting for someone and they say they want someone diverse, and I send them a shortlist which has got 3 more diverse people and 2 more traditional people in it, and I send them the videos across, I can track the data of how long did they watch those videos for, at what point did they stop engaging with those videos, and that's caught quite a lot of unconscious bias in some of our searches previously, where we've said, okay, well, you're saying that you want diversity, but actually the diverse hires, you watch them for 30 seconds, and then you turn off and you're not interested in what they're saying, whereas the other ones you're watching all the way through. So you can catch a couple of things there. So there's a couple of different ways you can do that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then the final thing is, again, like we said at the start, about being flexible and being open to suggestions. That is the biggest way to help your diversity and help hire people in, is being flexible about what you want. So a good example here is, we say we've got a client that would like a diverse hire, but they must have an engineering degree from a red brick university, and that's their requirement. We can give them data that says, well, do you know what? You've already cut your diverse pool in half there, because traditionally the diverse hires that you want, they may have not gone to a red brick university, or they may have done a slightly different degree, or they may have gone a different route into it. So it's about being flexible in how you think that person should look on paper as well.
Yeah.
So there's lots to it. There's so much to it, and it is a little bit of a minefield, but just trying to implement some of those things and start being a little bit more, I think, conscious of what you're doing will really make a big impact in that respect.
We do have a question. I'm going to come to that in a moment.
Sure.
But I think for me as well, when you are a manager and you are recruiting for a position, maybe we need to provide those managers with training about conscious and unconscious bias. So you might not realise how you're potentially discriminating against a person or a role. So maybe the businesses need to engage in some of that conscious, unconscious bias type training for those people doing that recruiting.
Absolutely. And do you know what's a good point from that actually as well is interview training for these people, because we see this all the time. We think, okay, well, they're the health and safety director, for example, they know health and safety, so let's get them to interview the people. It doesn't mean that they're a great interviewer or they've got the skills, like you said, to navigate that sort of thing. They might have unconscious biases that they're not aware of. So if we give them that sort of training, that will really, really help. You can look at as well in interviews as really breaking it down into scoring. And that can really, really help with people who maybe aren't used to interviewing. Because if it's a very traditional scoring system, you can see where people are falling down, and then we can look at it and go, okay, is that... Yeah, exactly. What sort of prompted that?
Yeah. The question that's come through that's probably linked to this point, that's why I'm going on to it now. Someone called Robbie. Hi, Robbie. Nice to meet you. How can companies make the recruitment process more inclusive for neurodiverse candidates?
Great question. Love it. Yeah, so this is something I think that companies are really far behind on. So we talk about diversity all the time, and companies are quite far on their diversity journey in terms of gender. Yeah, they're pretty up there. Ethnicity, they're not doing bad. They're on the right lines. Sexuality, they're not doing bad. They really, really fall down on visible, non-visible disabilities and neurodiversity. Yeah, this is a real tough area. There's certain things, again, like the language, that can really, really help in terms of inclusive language within the adverts, inclusive application processes. So we talked about, taking it maybe to competencies. Maybe you've got someone who has dyslexia and actually really struggles with writing. So could we say, okay, well, it's competencies, but could you send us a soundbite, or could you send us a video, or you could write it, give them different ways that they can interact with that application process. And then for the interview thing, it can be as simple as just asking the question. Is there anything that we need to provide you with that's going to make this a little bit easier for you?
The interview process itself.
Yeah, exactly. Because particularly when it's such a new area, it's something that, like I said, a lot of companies haven't been thinking about in the past. They're not always going to have all the answers, but typically the person who suffers with that neurodiversity or that visible or non-visible disability, they do, because they live with it day in, day out. They know exactly what they need. So let's just ask them. A good example, not necessarily from recruitment, but from a conference I went to last year. I was speaking at a conference on diversity and about how we can make it more inclusive and hiring strategies and all of this. And a lady came up to me at the end. She said, "This was great, really, really loved that." She said, "But a little bit of feedback if I can." She said, "I'm neurodiverse, and because this was a conference setting and there was all different talks going on around me," she said, "I really struggled to focus. I couldn't, because there was too many noises going on and I couldn't focus on the information." And I thought, you know what, I never ever would have thought of that. That would have, it just wouldn't have crossed my mind. But now she said that, for the future conferences, we know.
Bear that in mind.
Exactly, we know this is the sort of stuff. So let's just be open about that and have those conversations with people and say, what can we do to make this process easier for you or more accessible? And not be afraid of having those conversations. I would much rather someone ask than accidentally make it impossible.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Now I do have another question, but I'm going to go to Paul, and I think Paul, I presume it's Paul Woodward. So Paul asked, how important in terms of the ratio of health and safety skills and knowledge do you think good IT skills are for a modern health and safety professional to secure the next position?
That's a really interesting question. You know what? I've not been asked that one before. So well done. I'm coming up with a new one.
Caught you.
Yeah, it is important. Definitely is important. I don't know if I could give you an exact ratio on where it falls, but it is definitely becoming more and more important. At the moment, it's a given that there is a basic level of IT proficiency.
Of IT skills, yeah.
But we are seeing this start to change, particularly with the advent of AI, with different apps and things that people are using. We are seeing a lot of clients who are expecting a lot more proficiency than they used to. So things like the very old school, when I first started 14 years ago, people would send their CVs, and in their special skills they would say, can use Word, Excel, that's a given now. We assume that you know how to use a computer. Yeah. But actually, there is some upskilling to be done within the safety community, because I don't think we probably have the skills as an industry that we need in terms of technology moving forward. The other interesting side of it as well is, again, with that generational gap, is you've got this new generation coming through who have a very different set of IT proficiency skills. So they're very, very comfortable with apps. They're very, very comfortable with recording and video, and they're very comfortable with texting and Slack and all those sorts of things. But actually, they may fall down on the general areas that we assume everyone has, such as using Word, Excel. Yeah, because that isn't a skill that they use. So it's an area I think we have to be really conscious of moving forward, and it definitely is an area we need to start upskilling ourselves on. But yeah, whether I could give you an exact ratio of how important it is in terms of technical, the traditional health and safety skills are still more important. Yeah. But it's
and of course with Excel, there's degrees of competency in Excel and itself, isn't it? So I can use Excel, but some of the guys that work for me are whizzes on Excel. There's no way I'd be able to even compete with them. So hopefully, Paul, that answers your question. Thanks for asking it. Question for me, and we've got 15-ish minutes left to go, is, and it is current situation I have.
Okay.
And I've seen it before. So should salary expectations be shown on job adverts? And I'm going to look at this for 2 points and pick out a specific job title.
Okay.
Health and safety advisor is a title. And that could mean it's a health and safety advisor working for a health and safety manager.
Yep.
A relatively junior position in an organisation that's really more of a starter role. Okay? But a health and safety advisor could also be a 20-year professional being in the industry and is advising a client or a customer as a sole point on the legal ramifications and aspects of health and safety at a senior level.
Yeah.
And by just putting health and safety advisor on the job title, you can read through the job description, but if you're doing a speed read, where does that sit? So should the salary expectations we put out there?
Yeah. Short answer, yes. Long answer, yeah. Long answer, yeah. 100%. So we have this argument with clients all the time, and I understand the reticence of why people don't want to put salaries on there. But I disagree with the reticence. 100% a salary should always be on the job description, because let's be honest, people move for reasons other than money, but they need to pay their bills. At the end of the day, people need to know that this job is going to be able to pay their bills. So that's reason number one. The reticence with clients is always around, okay, well, for example, we put a salary out there and we've got a team internally who maybe aren't on the same salary. That's going to cause division. Or we put a salary out there and someone applies and they're great and we want to offer them the job, but actually it's 20 grand more than they're being paid now. So this is the reason why people don't do it. And I think both of those reasons aren't great. If someone applies for a role and you interview them and you love them and they can absolutely do the role, but they happen to be being underpaid at the moment, they should not be penalised for that. They should not be penalised for the fact that their current company is undervaluing them and doesn't understand their worth. And that's what kind of happens in that situation, is that, you know, you may have thought, okay, well, we were going to pay 45 grand for this, but he's only getting paid 20 at the minute. So, you know, we can come in slightly lower. And that's not good, because that's not going to help you with your staff retention. That person's not going to feel valued in the long run. You know, they may at first because they've got a slight increase on where they were, but market rates will they will see what other people are being paid. They will get approached for different things. So if someone is worth it, pay them what they're worth. That's kind of the end for that. If the reticence is around the fact that, okay, well, we've got a team and they're only being paid 40, but we're advertising at 45, unfortunately, that's something you just kind of have to look at internally, because if the market rates are dictating that it now needs to be 45, then the rest of your team should be getting an uplift. Yep. Because again, if you don't, the risk you're running is that they will get offered it by another company. They may move, and it's going to cost you a hell of a lot more than that 5 grand to hire,
re-recruit,
and re-recruit. So I completely understand the reticence from clients. I know why they do it, but our opinion has been and always will be the salary needs to be on the roll. It's only fair that someone knows what the expectation is before they go to all that effort of putting a CV together, tailoring it to the job description, sending it through, going through 4 rounds of adverts. 4 rounds of interviews, to then at the end find out that the salary isn't commensurate with what they're looking for. And I do think it's kind of a branding issue. The clients that I see put out adverts that sort of say non-competitive, not non-competitive, put out competitive, is kind of read as non-competitive. That's how people see it. They think, you know, competitive salary means it's not that competitive, or you would have put the salary on the advert. So it's kind of a branding issue then for the company, because I don't think it necessarily puts you in the best light as it could do. So yeah, salaries 100% should be on the advert.
I actually agree.
Good.
Yeah, I agree. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's all the questions I have. There's no other questions coming in from the attendees. I don't know how successful we've been actually getting this out there to people. Technical difficulties and all that. This will be made available on our site.
Yeah.
And so people are aware again, the health and safety professionals in UK and Ireland is a LinkedIn group. Laura, you are a part of that group now. So
I am.
Thank you for joining.
Yeah.
And I would just wish everybody else could join as well. Thanks for joining us, folks, and we'll have another LinkedIn Live soon. Thank you
Thanks,
very much.
everyone.
Bye-bye.